Greg stood at the observation window of New Haven's Central Administration Building, watching the twin suns set over the farmlands. His colony had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a small outpost 15 years ago now housed 150,000 people. Children played in the streets. Farms stretched to the horizon. This was home now, not Earth. His daughter Lisa was teaching late today. She had 23 students in her class, all eager to learn about Earth's history. Greg smiled, thinking about her passion for education. She could have stayed on Earth, lived comfortably, but she chose to come here with him. She believed in building something new. The peaceful evening shattered when alarms blared across the colony. Greg ran to the command center. Corinne Bishop's face filled the main screen. She commanded the orbital defense platform that protected New Haven from space debris and pirates. "Greg, we have a situation," Corinne said. Her voice was tight with worry. "Sensors picked up a massive fleet coming out of hyperspace. I count over 300 ships, military configuration." Greg's stomach dropped. Did they respond to hails? "Not yet. They're moving into orbit now. These aren't traders, Greg. These are warships." Within minutes, a communication came through. The alien who appeared on screen had gray-scaled skin and 4 eyes that burned with cold intelligence. He wore armor decorated with symbols of conquest. "I am commander of the Dominion. This planet now belongs to the Empire. You have 2 hours to evacuate." Greg kept his voice steady. "Commander, this planet has been our home for 15 years. We've built cities here, raised families. Surely we can share this world or negotiate a peaceful solution." "There is no negotiation. Leave or die 2 hours." The screen went dark. Greg immediately opened channels to every district. "This is Administrator. Begin emergency evacuation protocols. All civilians to transport ships immediately. This is not a drill." Chief Engineer appeared in the doorway, breathing hard from running. "Greg, we have a problem. Our transport ships can only hold 30,000 people, maybe 35,000 if we pack them in." The words hit Greg like a physical blow. 30,000 out of 150,000. The rest would have to stay behind. "Then we choose the children first," Greg said. "Every child under 16 gets on those ships, then their parents if there's room." Nodded and ran to coordinate the evacuation. Corinne called again from the orbital platform. "Greg, I'm taking our patrol ships out to buy you time. We've got 3 ships against their fleet, but maybe we can slow them down." "Corinne, don't. You can't win that fight." "I know, but I can give you a few more minutes. Get our people out, Greg." The next 90 minutes were chaos. Parents carried screaming children to the landing pads. Families were torn apart as they decided who would go and who would stay. Lisa arrived at the command center with tears streaming down her face. "Dad, they won't let me on the ships. They said I'm too old, that the children need me to stay and help." Greg pulled his daughter into a tight hug. "Then we stay together." In orbit, Corinne Bishop led her 3 patrol ships against the fleet. It was like throwing stones at a mountain. The first patrol ship exploded within seconds. The second managed to fire a spread of missiles before enemy beams cut it in half. Corinne's ship, the last one, dodged and weaved through enemy fire. "Defense platform to colony," she transmitted. "I'm uploading all tactical data on their weapons and shields. Make sure Earth gets this information. Make them pay for what's about to happen." A massive energy beam struck the platform. Corinne Bishop died instantly, along with her crew of 40. Greg watched the explosions in orbit through the command center's screens. The evacuation transports were lifting off, packed with children and as many adults as could fit. 12,000 people escaping, 138,000 staying behind. Worked frantically at his console, transmitting everything to Earth. Weapon configurations, shield frequencies, tactical patterns, all encrypted and sent on tight beam communications that would take 47 years to reach home. The fleet moved into bombardment position. "They're not even going to land," said in disbelief. "They're just going to burn us from orbit." The first energy beams struck the northern continent. Cities vanished in explosions of superheated air. The southern farms erupted in fireballs that could be seen from space. Greg activated the colony-wide broadcast. "This is Greg to anyone receiving this transmission, especially Earth. The Dominion attacked without provocation. They gave us no real chance to evacuate. They are murdering civilians, children, families. We are sending all data on their fleet. Make them answer for this. Tell the galaxy what happened here. Don't let us be forgotten. Lisa ran to the school when the bombardment started. She gathered the children who hadn't made it to the ships, 23 small faces looking to her for safety. She led them to the reinforced shelter beneath the building, holding them close as the world burned above. The administration building shook as beams struck nearby structures, transmitted the last packets of data, and looked at Greg. "It's sent, Earth will know." "Then we did what we could," Greg said. The next beam hit the administration building directly. The structure collapsed in seconds. Greg died at his post, still transmitting his final message. The school shelter held for almost 3 minutes before the sustained bombardment cracked the reinforced walls. Lisa died with her arms around children, trying to shield them with her own body. Across New Haven, similar scenes played out. Families huddled together, people running for shelters that wouldn't save them. The fleet methodically erased every settlement, every farm, every sign of human presence. From space, the planet that had been green and blue now glowed red and orange with fire. Lieutenant Commander Cole commanded one of the evacuation transports. He watched through the rear cameras as his home burned. The ship was packed beyond safety limits with refugees. Children cried for parents who didn't make it. Adults stared in shock at screens showing the destruction. "Set course for the nearest human outpost," ordered his pilot. His voice was hollow. "And start compiling a list of survivors. Earth will want to know who lived." And who died, he didn't say. 138,000 dead. His friends, his neighbors, families he'd known for years, all gone in less than an hour. The fleet completed its bombardment and began leaving orbit. Commander sent a brief report to his superiors. The planet was cleansed. The weak humans had been removed. The Dominion could colonize the world at their leisure. Fleet Admiral Helen Carter sat in her office at Earth Defense Command Headquarters in Geneva. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, transmitted by emergency beacon from a colony transport ship. She had watched it 7 times already. Each viewing made her angrier. The recording showed Greg's final transmission. His voice stayed calm even as explosions shook the building around him. He described the attack, the impossible choice of who would evacuate, the systematic murder of civilians. The feed cut to static when the administration building was destroyed. Then came the exterior footage from the fleeing transport ships. New Haven burning, cities reduced to craters, forests turned to ash, 138,000 people dead. Helen's hands shook as she prepared for the emergency council session. She had 3 daughters. The youngest was a teacher, just like Lisa had been. She couldn't stop thinking about those children dying in the school shelter. The United Earth Council assembled within the hour. President called the session to order. Every council member had seen the recordings. The chamber was silent except for quiet crying from some representatives. "We need to discuss our response," said. His voice was heavy with grief. Ambassador Grant spoke first. "We should pursue diplomatic channels, contact the government, demand they hand over those responsible. War should be our last option." "War?" Richard Blake stood up, his face red with rage. "They already made war on us. My sister lived on New Haven. My niece was 7 years old. She died in that school. They didn't give us diplomatic options. They gave us 2 hours and then started killing." Council member Susan Park from the Luna colony added her voice. "Richard is right. This wasn't a border dispute or a misunderstanding. This was genocide. They erased an entire colony without provocation." Helen Carter stepped forward with a data pad. "I've analyzed the tactical information that Chief Engineer transmitted before he died. They used 300 warships to destroy one peaceful colony. They have an empire spanning dozens of systems. Intelligence suggests their total military force is around 8,000 ships." "8,000, said quietly. "And how many do we have?" Helen met her eyes. 60,000 warships across the Sol system, Mars shipyards, Jupiter anchorages, Saturn defense fleet, and Earth orbital forces combined. The council chamber fell silent again. The numbers were staggering. Stood a vote then. Do we authorize military action against the Dominion? Every hand rose. Even Grant, though tears ran down her face as she voted. "Unanimous," declared. "Admiral Carter, you have full authorization to mobilize the fleet, bring our people justice." Helen returned to Defense Command and activated Protocol Nightfall. Across the solar system, emergency signals reached every military installation. Reserve ships were activated. Crews were recalled from leave. The largest fleet in human history began assembling. At Mars shipyards, Admiral boarded his flagship. The massive vessel, designated EDF Vengeance, had been in construction for 5 years. It was designed to lead fleet operations, coordinate attacks across multiple battle groups. Had never expected to use it in a war of this scale. Near Jupiter's moons, Admiral Sophie Marshall gathered the Second Fleet. Her forces specialized in rapid deployment and precision strikes. She had served for 30 years and never seen Earth so united in purpose. Admiral commanded the Third Fleet from the Saturn defense perimeter. His ships were equipped with the latest shield technology and weapons systems, had studied every major battle in human history, none compared to what they were about to attempt. Captain Victoria Hayes walked through the corridors of the Vengeance. Crew members saluted as she passed. She was second in command, responsible for coordinating the ship's combat operations. Victoria had friends on New Haven. The thought of their deaths fueled her determination. In the intelligence division, Commander Porter analyzed every piece of data from final transmission. The information was incomplete, but enough to understand tactics. They relied on overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. They expected enemies to break and run. "They've never fought someone who hits back harder," told his team. "We're going to show them what a real military looks like." Marine Colonel addressed her ground forces in the training facilities beneath Geneva. 10,000 Marines prepared for possible planetary assaults. They practiced urban combat, fortification breaching, and rescue operations. "We don't know if we'll need boots on the ground," told them. "But if we do, we'll be ready. Those colonists deserved protection. We're going to make sure no one else dies like they did." The fleet gathered beyond lunar orbit over 3 days. Ship after ship arrived until the formation stretched across thousands of kilometers. 60,000 warships, from massive fleet carriers to small but deadly corvettes. Earth's entire military strength assembled in one place. Helen Carter stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the displays. Each dot represented a vessel, a crew, people willing to risk everything for justice. She thought about Greg and his final message, about Corinne Bishop dying to buy evacuation time, about Lisa and those children. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Every ship, every crew member heard her words. "This is Fleet Admiral Helen Carter. 7 days ago, the Dominion attacked New Haven Colony without warning or provocation. They murdered 138,000 civilians, men, women, and children who were building peaceful lives on a distant world. They gave them no chance. They showed no mercy. They burned our colony to ash and left." Helen held up a photograph. Greg and Lisa smiling at the camera during New Haven's founding celebration. "This is Greg and his daughter Lisa. Greg died transmitting information about the attack. Lisa died protecting children in a school shelter. They represent every person we lost, every family destroyed, every future stolen." Her voice grew harder. "We are not going to conquer. We are not going to start an empire. We are going to deliver justice. We are going to show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. We are going to demonstrate that attacking human civilians brings consequences." She paused, looking at the fleet assembled before her. "They think we are weak. They think we will accept this loss and move on. They are wrong. We will find those responsible. We will bring them to answer for their crimes, and we will ensure that no one ever makes this mistake again." Added his voice, "First Fleet stands ready." Sophie Marshall followed, "Second Fleet stands ready." Completed the sequence, "Third Fleet stands ready." Helen looked at her navigation officer. "Set course for space, maximum speed." The fleet entered hyperspace in waves, the departures creating ripples of displaced energy. Within minutes, the orbital space around Earth stood empty. 60,000 ships had vanished, heading toward enemy territory. On Earth, people gathered in public spaces to watch the news broadcasts. The fleet's departure was shown on every screen. Some people cheered, others prayed. Parents held their children close, hoping the war would be quick. Richard Blake stood at a memorial in New York, placing flowers for his sister and niece. Around him, thousands of others left tributes for the New Haven victims. The wall stretched for blocks, covered in photos and messages. Addressed the planet from his office. Our fleet carries with them our grief, our determination, and our commitment to justice. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. And when our ships return, they will bring the knowledge that humanity answered for its dead. In the empty space beyond the moon, a single monitoring station tracked the fleet's departure. The officer of the human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of territory. 60,000 ships dropped back into normal space in perfect formation, their arrival creating sensor alerts across 3 systems. Commander Porter studied the intelligence displays in his operations center. I'm picking up heavy communication traffic. They know we're here. Admiral Helen Carter nodded. Let them know. I want them scared before we even fire a shot. His team worked to intercept and decode transmissions. The alien language was complex, but human computers had been studying it since first contact decades ago. Within hours, they had a clear picture of the enemy's response. Admiral, they're panicking, reported. The border commanders are calling for reinforcements. They're sending emergency messages to there. What are they saying about New Haven? Helen asked. His face darkened. They're calling it a successful conquest. Commander filed a report claiming the colony was cleansed efficiently. Their propaganda networks are celebrating it as proof of superiority. Helen's jaw tightened. Show me the location of the fleet commander who carried out the attack. Axe said, pulling up data. He's currently stationed at Prime, their fortress. He commands their entire military from there. Then that's where we're going, but first let's send a message. A border patrol of 200 ships detected the human fleet and moved to intercept. Commander and led the patrol from his flagship. He had heard reports of the human arrival but didn't believe they posed a real threat. Humans were traders and diplomats, not warriors. All ships attack formation, and ordered. We'll destroy these invaders quickly and claim glory for the Dominion. Admiral watched the formation approach on his tactical display. They're not even taking us seriously. Look at that formation, no defensive positioning at all. Captain Victoria Hayes stood beside him. They think we're easy prey. Should we correct that assumption? Yes, all ships weapons free. Show them what human engineering looks like. The human fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space with precision that stunned the human targeting systems locked onto enemy ships and didn't miss. Missiles tracked their targets through evasive maneuvers that would have fooled older weapons. The first wave of fire destroyed 80 ships in seconds, and stared at his displays in shock as his fleet fell apart around him. Impossible, how can they be this accurate? Return fire all ships. The weapons were powerful but crude. They relied on saturation fire. Hopping volume would overcome precision. Against the human shields, it was useless. Earth's defensive technology absorbed the energy and dispersed it harmlessly. Their shields aren't even fluctuating, An's tactical officer reported. Our weapons aren't penetrating. 11 minutes after the battle began, it ended. Every ship was destroyed or disabled. The human fleet didn't lose a single vessel. Ordered the disabled ships boarded and the survivors taken prisoner. And found himself in a human detention cell, staring at his captors in disbelief. A human officer, Commander Lisa Park, questioned him through a translator. You seemed surprised by our capabilities, Lisa said. This is impossible, An replied. Humans are weak, you don't fight, you trade and talk. We were content to trade and talk until you murdered our civilians. Now you're learning what we're capable of when provoked. Victoria Hayes took command of broadcasting operations. She prepared a message that would be sent to every world simultaneously. The transmission opened with footage from New Haven. The burning cities, children running from explosions, Greg's final words, Lisa dying with her students, the systematic destruction of everything humans had built there. Then Victoria's face appeared on screen. I am Captain Victoria Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet. 7 days ago, your military destroyed our colony on New Haven. 138,000 civilians were murdered without warning or mercy. We have come for those responsible. She paused, letting the words sink in. We are offering one chance for a peaceful resolution. Surrender Axe and Commander. Surrender every officer who participated in the New Haven massacre. Do this, and we will take only those individuals to face justice. Her expression hardened. If you refuse, we will come to Prime and take them by force. We have 60,000 warships. Your border patrol had 200. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Think carefully about your choice. The transmission ended. Across space, the message played on every communication channel. The footage of New Haven shocked many civilians who had been told the colony was a military target. The demonstration of human military power terrified the government. Admiral led the Third Fleet to begin systematic operations against military installations. His orders were specific: destroy military targets only, avoid civilian casualties. Each outpost they attacked fell within hours. Target their sensor arrays first, instructed his fleet. Then weapons platforms, then the bases themselves. Give the personnel time to evacuate. We're not murderers like they are. At a military outpost on the border world of, the garrison commander received warning that human ships were approaching. He ordered evacuation of all non-essential personnel. 20 minutes later, ships arrived and destroyed the unmanned installations with precision strikes. Admiral Sophie Marshall's Second Fleet established blockades around major trade routes. No civilian ships were harmed, but military vessels trying to reinforce there were turned back or destroyed if they resisted. "We're cutting them off," Sophie reported to Helen. "Their military can't regroup or resupply. Every day we maintain these blockades weakens their defensive position." On Prime, the ruling council convened in emergency session. Axe stood before them, his 4 eyes burning with anger and, for the first time, fear. "The humans have destroyed 18 military outposts," Counselor On reported. "They've blockaded our major trade routes. Our border is collapsing." "This is impossible," Axe insisted. "Humans don't have this kind of military. Our intelligence said they had maybe 10,000 ships." "Your intelligence was wrong," another counselor said coldly. "They have 60,000 and they're coming here." Counselor Ra, one of the few voices of reason on the council, spoke quietly. "We should surrender those responsible. This war was foolish from the start. We attacked a peaceful colony for no reason except greed." "Never," Axe roared. "I will not hand myself over to these weak creatures. We are the strongest race in this sector." "Clearly not," Ra replied. "They destroyed 200 ships in 11 minutes. How long do you think our home fleet will last?" On made the decision. "Recall all military forces to Prime. We will gather our full strength and destroy the human fleet when they arrive. 8,000 ships against their 60,000. But we have the planetary defenses, the fortress shields, the advantage of fighting on our." "This is madness," Ra protested. "We should negotiate." "We fight," Axe said, "and we win. The humans will learn that attacking was their greatest mistake." Porter intercepted the military orders. "Admiral, they're gathering their entire fleet at there, 8,000 ships. They're going to make their stand there." Helen studied the tactical projections. "That's actually helpful. Better to face them all at once than chase them across their empire. How long until we reach Prime?" 3 days at current speed." "Good, that gives Colonel time to prepare her Marines. If we need to go down to the surface to get Axe, I want our people ready." Assembled her assault teams. Lieutenant Commander Cole, the New Haven survivor, volunteered to lead the advance team. "Are you sure about this?" asked him. "No one would blame you for sitting this one out." His face was hard. "I watched my home burn from orbit, Colonel. I'm going to look Axe in the eyes when we take him. I need to be there." "Understood. Get your team ready. We might need to move fast once we breach their defenses." The human fleet continued its advance. Behind them, military installations burned. Trade routes stayed empty. The border was secured, and ahead of them, Prime waited with its gathered forces. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Victoria Hayes watched the countdown timer. 3 days until they reached the enemy. 3 days until the real battle began. "Do you think they'll surrender?" her tactical officer asked. Victoria thought about the footage from New Haven, the children dying, the families torn apart, the casual cruelty of the attack. "No," she said quietly. "They think strength is everything. They can't imagine losing to us, so we'll have to show them." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation around Prime. 60,000 ships appeared simultaneously, surrounding the planet from every angle. The tactical precision of the arrival sent shock waves through the military command. Axe stood in his fortress command center, watching the displays fill with enemy contacts. He had expected the humans to arrive cautiously, probe his defenses, give him time to position his forces. Instead, they had surrounded his entire world in seconds. "All ships to battle positions," he ordered. "Activate planetary shields, prepare all orbital defense platforms." 8,000 warships moved into defensive formation around there. Massive shield generators on the surface powered up, creating layers of protective energy around the planet. 300 orbital weapons platforms armed their cannons. Admiral Helen Carter surveyed the enemy positions from her command ship. "They've committed everything to defending this one planet." Analysis. Commander Porter highlighted weak points on the tactical display. "Their shields are strong but concentrated around population centers. The military command fortress is here in the northern continent. That's where Axe will be. Shield generators are located at these 6 positions around the planet." "If we take out those generators, the shields fall," Helen said. "Correct, but they're heavily defended. We'll need a ground team to sabotage them from inside." Helen activated the fleet communication channel, broadcasting to every ship and the planet below. "This is Fleet Admiral Helen Carter of Earth. We are here for Axe and all officers who participated in the New Haven massacre. Surrender them now, and this ends peacefully." Axe's response came immediately. "This is Axe. You invaded Dominion space. You destroyed our ships. You blockaded our worlds. Now you threaten our. The Dominion does not surrender to lesser species. Come and die against our defenses." "So be it," Helen said quietly. She switched to the fleet channel. "All ships engage, destroy their fleet, avoid civilian targets on the surface." The Battle of Prime began. Admiral's First Fleet engaged the main battle line. Human ships moved with precision, targeting enemy vessels and destroying them with coordinated fire. They fought back with desperate ferocity, but their tactics were crude compared to human coordination. Victoria Hayes commanded the Vengeance's weapon systems. "Target their flagship," full spread of missiles followed by beam weapons. The massive command ship tried to evade, but human targeting didn't miss. Missiles impacted the shields, weakening them. Energy beams punched through the damaged shields and tore into the hull. The flagship broke apart in a series of explosions. Admiral Sophie Marshall's Second Fleet focused on the orbital defense platforms. Her ships danced between the platforms, using superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the heavy weapons while systematically destroying each installation. "Platform 17 destroyed," her tactical officer reported. 18 taking critical damage, 19 is offline. "Good, keep moving. Don't let them get a solid lock on any ship." Admiral's Third Fleet secured the orbital perimeter, preventing any ships from escaping. His standing orders were clear. Accept surrenders, destroy those who fought. 3 enemy cruisers are breaking formation," his communications officer said. "They're attempting to flee the system. Warn them once. If they don't stop, destroy them." The fleeing ships ignored the warning. Destroyers pursued and eliminated them. No one was leaving until this was finished. On the surface, Axe watched his fleet being destroyed. 3 hours into the battle, he had lost 5,000 ships. The humans had damaged only 83 of their vessels, and none were destroyed. "This is impossible," he muttered. "How can they be this superior?" His second-in-command commander stood nearby. "We should retreat to the planetary shields. Our fleet can't win this fight." "Order all remaining ships to fall back," Axe commanded. "Activate all shield generators to maximum power. They can't touch us behind the shields." The surviving ships, numbering around 2,000, retreated to orbit directly above the shield perimeter. The human fleet held position, not pursuing. Helen Carter studied the shield readings. "They've pulled back to the planetary defenses. Are your teams ready?" "Cole's strike team is prepared. We've identified the shield generator locations. If we can get them down, the Marines can breach the fortress." "Send them in." Cole led a team of 20 specialists in 3 small assault craft. The ships were designed for stealth, using the latest cloaking technology. They slipped past the orbital defenses and entered the atmosphere. "Landing Zone Alpha is clear," pilot reported. "Setting down near Generator Station 3. The team exited the craft and moved quickly toward the shield generator facility. Guards patrolled the perimeter, but they were looking up at the space battle, not watching for infiltrators on the ground. His team eliminated the guards quietly and breached the facility. Inside, massive generators hummed with power, maintaining a section of the planetary shield. "Plant the charges," ordered. "We've got 5 minutes before their security realizes we're here." His demolitions expert, Corporal Amy, set explosive charges on critical power junctions. Charges set. When these blow, this whole sector of the shield goes dark. They evacuated the facility and returned to their craft, waited until all teams reported their charges were placed. 6 shield generators, 6 teams, all in position. "All teams detonate on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." The charges exploded simultaneously. 6 shield generators overloaded and shut down. The protective barrier around Prime flickered and failed in multiple locations. "Shields are down," reported to Helen. "We have openings. Ascend in your Marines." Colonel led 10,000 Marines in assault. They descended through the gaps in the shields, heading for the military command fortress. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky, but human shields absorbed the damage. They landed around the fortress perimeter. Marines poured out, establishing defensive positions and preparing to breach the walls. Soldiers met them with heavy weapons fire. The battle on the ground was brutal. They fought with desperate courage, knowing there was at stake. But human training and equipment gave them the advantage. Marines advanced methodically, clearing each defensive position. In orbit, Victoria Hayes detected movement among the remaining ships. "Admiral, they're making another attack run, all ships incoming." The fleet, knowing the shields were down, launched a final desperate assault. They threw everything they had at the human fleet, hopping to break through and force the invaders to retreat. It was suicide and they knew it, but they were fighting for their. The battle intensified. Ships rammed human vessels when their weapons failed. Explosions lit up the orbit like a deadly fireworks display. Human ships returned fire with devastating accuracy. When the attack ended, only 437 ships remained. The human fleet had lost 1,200 personnel, and 83 ships were damaged enough to require immediate repairs. Commander stood on his ship's bridge, watching the tactical display. His fleet was gone. His people were defeated. He opened a communication channel. "Human fleet, this is Commander. I am surrendering my remaining ships. We cannot win. We will power down weapons and await your instructions." The surviving vessels went dark. Human ships moved in to secure them and take the crews into custody. On the surface, Marines breached the fortress walls. They fought through the corridors, clearing rooms and securing prisoners. Soldiers who surrendered were treated fairly. Those who fought were eliminated efficiently. Cole's team entered the command center. Axe waited there with his personal guard, all heavily armed. "You cannot have this fortress," Axe declared. "I will die before I surrender to humans." "That can be arranged," replied coldly. "But I'd prefer to take you alive. The families of New Haven deserve to see you face justice." Axe opened fire. His guards joined him. His team returned fire with precision. The brief firefight ended with Axe wounded and his guards dead. Stood over the fallen. "This is for Greg, for Lisa, for 138,000 people you murdered." He didn't kill Axe. That would have been too easy. Instead, he had the medics stabilize him and prepared him for transport to the human fleet. His voice came over the radio. "Cole, status. Axe is in custody. The fortress is secured." The neutral space station orbited a dead moon between 3 major galactic powers. It had been chosen for the trial specifically because of its neutrality. No single species controlled it. No government could influence what happened within its walls. Judge Advocate General Sarah presided over the tribunal. She was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Behind her sat representatives from 40 different species, all present to witness justice being served. Axe and Commander stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by human guards. Both wore restraints and looked diminished compared to their former positions of power. Axe's wounds from the fortress battle had healed, but his pride remained shattered. Sarah began the proceedings. "Axe and Commander, you are charged with genocide, war crimes, and the unprovoked murder of 138,000 human civilians. How do you plead?" Spoke first. "I followed orders that commanded the attack. I merely executed his will." Axe glared at his former subordinate before addressing the tribunal. "I plead that I acted within my authority as a military commander. The planet was desired for expansion. The humans were obstacles to be removed." So you admit to ordering the attack? Sarah asked. I admit to doing what any rational commander would do. We gave them time to evacuate. They chose to stay. Sarah activated a holographic display. The footage from New Haven played for everyone in the chamber. Greg's final transmission, the children in the school shelter, the systematic bombardment of civilian targets. 2 hours, Sarah said quietly. You gave 150,000 people 2 hours to evacuate a planet they'd called home for 15 years. Transports could only hold 30,000. What did you expect the rest to do? That was not my concern. It should have been you murdered civilians, you targeted non-combatants. You destroyed homes, schools, hospitals. You are a war criminal. The tribunal heard testimony over 3 days. Survivors from the evacuation ships described watching their world burn. Cole spoke about finding bodies in the ruins when human forces returned to New Haven after the battle. Engineers presented data showing they had targeted civilian centers deliberately. Defense tried to claim he was following orders. The tribunal rejected this argument. Sarah pointed to galactic law established by treaty centuries ago. Following illegal orders did not absolve guilt. Axe refused to show remorse. We take what we want. Strength rules the galaxy. You humans won through superior numbers, not superior culture. Councilmember Richard Blake, who had lost his sister and niece at New Haven, was allowed to address the court. My sister was a farmer. Her daughter was 7 years old. They didn't threaten anyone. They grew food and lived peaceful lives. You didn't kill them for strategic reasons. You killed them because you could, because you thought humans were weak and wouldn't respond. He paused, his voice breaking with emotion. You were wrong, we responded. We brought 60,000 ships to we broke your military, we took you into custody, and now you will face justice for what you did. The tribunal deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, Sarah read the verdict. Axe, this tribunal finds you guilty of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sentient beings. You are sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. You will be held in a maximum security facility on a neutral world, isolated from all contact except your guards. She turned to, Commander, you are found guilty of war crimes and complicity in genocide. You are sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole under the same conditions. Additional officers who participated in the attack received varying sentences based on their level of involvement. Some received 50 years, others received life. All would serve their time far from there. The government was required to pay reparations to the families of New Haven victims. Their military was limited to defensive forces only, with regular inspections by neutral parties. The site of New Haven Colony was declared a memorial world, protected by treaty. Ambassador Grant stood before the assembled representatives of the galactic community. Many species had watched Earth's response with concern. 60,000 warships was a terrifying display of force. I understand your concerns, said. You saw Earth mobilize the largest fleet in known history. You saw us destroy the military in a matter of days. You're wondering if we're a threat to galactic peace. She activated a display showing the battle records. Look at our tactics. We targeted military installations only. We gave evacuation warnings before destroying enemy bases. We accepted surrenders. We treated prisoners according to established laws of war. We could have bombarded Prime and killed millions. We didn't. A representative from the consortium spoke. But you demonstrated the capability. What stops you from using that force for conquest? The same thing that stopped us before the attacked New Haven, replied. We don't want conquest. We want to trade, explore, and live in peace. But understand this clearly. If you attack our civilians, if you target our families, if you commit genocide against our people, we will respond with overwhelming force. She looked around the chamber. We seek justice, not revenge. We pursue peace, not empire, but we will protect our own. That is not a threat. That is a promise. The representative nodded slowly. A fair stance, but how do we trust it? President, attending via holographic link from Earth, answered. Judge us by our actions. We had the military beaten. We could have enslaved their world. Instead, we held a fair trial. We're establishing diplomatic relations with their new government. We're helping them rebuild what the war destroyed. We seek reconciliation, not domination. Over the following months, the human fleet began withdrawing from space. Admiral established a small monitoring station to ensure treaty compliance. The rest of the massive fleet returned home. Admiral Sophie Marshall's ships lifted their blockades. Trade routes reopened. Merchants, once terrified of human retribution, found that Earth was willing to establish economic partnerships. Admiral remained in orbit around Prime for 3 months, working with the new government. Counselor Ra, who had opposed the New Haven attack from the start, now led her people. "I apologize for what my species did," Ra told during a diplomatic meeting. "Acts represented the worst of our culture, the belief that strength justified cruelty. You showed us something different, strength with restraint, power with mercy." "We had to respond," said, "but we didn't have to become monsters to do it. That's the difference between justice and revenge." Ra extended a formal apology to Earth and the families of New Haven victims. She visited the memorial world personally, walking among the ruins and laying a wreath at the monument. Cole, now appointed as the memorial caretaker, met her there. "It takes courage to come here." "It takes more courage to forgive," Ra replied. "Can you?" Looked at the wall bearing 138,000 names. He found his friends, his neighbors, the families he'd known. "I'm not there yet, maybe someday, but I can acknowledge that you're trying to make things right. That's a start." On 442B, New Haven was being rebuilt. The ruins were preserved as a memorial, but new settlements rose nearby. Survivors returned, joined by volunteers from Earth. The population grew again. Victoria Hayes attended the dedication ceremony for the new school. It was named the Lisa Memorial School, honoring the teacher who died protecting her students. "She believed in building the future," Victoria said in her speech. "She believed in teaching the next generation. This school represents that belief. We will never forget what happened here, but we won't let that tragedy define us. We'll build, we'll grow, and we'll show the galaxy that humanity endures." Children played in the schoolyard. Some were from Earth, others were from allied species. A few were even young, children of diplomats and traders who wanted their kids to understand what peace looked like. Established a training facility on New Haven. Marines learned about the massacre, understood what they were protecting, and trained to prevent it from ever happening again. "Never again" became the motto of the New Haven garrison. The words were carved above the memorial entrance. 10 years passed. New Haven thrived. The population reached 200,000. Farms stretched across continents. Cities grew. The memorial remained a reminder of the price of peace. Cole stood at the memorial on the anniversary of the attack. He was older now, his hair showing gray, but he still came every year to remember. A group of children approached, led by their teacher. One child, a human girl about 8 years old, asked, "Did you live here when it happened?" "I did," said. "I was on one of the evacuation ships. I watched it burn from orbit." "My grandpa says Earth sent 60,000 ships to get justice." "They did, and they got it." "Were you angry?" another child asked. Thought about Axe, now spending his life in isolation. About stripped of honor and power. About the military broken and limited. About the memorial that ensured no one would forget. "Yes," he said. "I was very angry, but Earth didn't let that anger turn us into what we fought against. We sought justice, we found it, and then we built peace." The teacher, a young named Ara, stepped forward. "I teach my students about this place, about what happened, and about what humanity chose to do afterward." "What do you tell them?" asked. "That strength means nothing without wisdom. That victory means nothing without mercy. That your people could have destroyed mine, but chose reconciliation instead." Nodded, "That's worth teaching." On Earth, Helen Carter retired from military service. She spent her time writing memoirs and speaking to young officers about the responsibility that came with power. "We had 60,000 ships," she told a class at the academy. "We could have conquered half the galaxy, but that's not who we are. We used that power for justice, then came home. Remember that. Power exists to protect, not to dominate." Served 2 more terms as president. His greatest achievement, he believed, was not winning the war but building the peace that followed. Richard Blake ran the foundation for New Haven orphans and survivors. He helped hundreds of people rebuild their lives. His sister and niece were gone, but he honored their memory by helping others. In the neutral prison facility, Axe sat in his cell. He had decades left to live, all of it in isolation. Sometimes he thought about his choices, about the colony he destroyed, about the fleet that came for him. He never apologized, but in the quiet hours, he understood that he had awakened something terrible in humanity, something that should have been left sleeping. The galaxy remembered. The Battle of Prime became required study in military academies across dozens of worlds, not because of its brutality, but because of its restraint. Earth had shown that overwhelming force could be used precisely, that victory could be achieved without becoming monsters. New species joining the galactic community learned about New Haven. They learned what happened when you attacked human civilians. They learned that Earth would travel any distance, mobilize any force necessary to protect its people. But they also learned that Earth sought justice, not conquest, peace, not domination. And so the galaxy found a new balance. Earth became a major power, respected and sometimes feared, but trusted to use its strength wisely. On New Haven, the memorial stood against the setting suns. 138,000 names carved in stone, a reminder of what was lost and what was won. Humanity had answered for its dead, justice had been served, and from the ashes of tragedy, peace had grown. The lesson was learned, the galaxy would not forget. Well done, bring him up. The Admiral wants to talk to him. In the ruins of the Fortress Command Center, Marines raised the Earth flag. It flew over Prime, a symbol of human victory and justice delivered. Helen Carter watched the flag appear on her tactical display. The battle was over. The military was broken. The war criminals were in custody. Now came the next phase, justice and rebuilding. The hard part was done. The galaxy had seen what happened when humanity's peaceful colonies were attacked. They would not forget this lesson. The fleet jumped to hyperspace again, covering the distance in coordinated leaps. With each jump, they got closer to Prime, closer to the enemy's last stand, closer to justice for New Haven. And they waited, confident in their strength, believing their fortress world would save them. They didn't understand that humanity had brought enough firepower to break any fortress. They didn't know that human determination exceeded any defense. They were about to learn. En duty, Lieutenant Ben Foster marked the time in his log. The largest military operation in human history had begun. 47 light-years away, the Dominion continued its daily operations. They had no idea that death was coming for them. They didn't understand that they had awakened something terrible in humanity. Earth had sent its answer. 60,000 warships carried that message into the dark, and nothing would stop them from delivering it. They had no idea what they had just started. They didn't understand that attacking human civilians, murdering children, burning a peaceful colony wouldn't be forgotten or forgiven. They couldn't imagine the response that was coming. Earth would receive the transmissions in 47 years. The distance meant nothing. Human memory was long. Human justice was patient. And when Earth learned what happened to New Haven, 60,000 warships would bring that justice to without mercy and without hesitation.